you know what? That's just what can happen to you in the morning if you don't eat a good breakfast. You can start slowing down and getting droopy. Look, it's dumb to run out of gas. Just fill your tank up with good things like these. Fruits like grapefruit.
Here's something you may not want to hear first thing in the morning. Your kids could be eating too many vitamins in their cereal. That's the warning from a new report on food with nutrients like vitamin A, zinc, and niacin.
The Environmental Working Group finds that nearly half of young children eat potentially harmful amounts of fortified cereals and snack.
We can make them disappear.
Marshmallowy Lucky Charms, a tasty part of this good breakfast. That's me Lucky Charms.
Galactically delicious. Galactically delicious.
We were told it was healthy. We were shown smiling kids, colorful lunch trays, and a pyramid we were meant to trust. We grew up believing cereal meant a good morning, bread meant fuel, and sugar, as long as it came with a cartoon mascot, was harmless. But what if this wasn't nutrition? What if this was programming? In the 70s, U.S. officials worked with agricultural lobbyists, not independent health experts, to shape our national diet. In 1967, the sugar industry literally paid Harvard scientists to blame fat for heart disease instead of sugar. And by the 90s, the official food pyramid told millions of families to base their meals on processed grains and refined carbs, the cheapest, most subsidized commodities in America. This wasn't just bad advice, it was a business model, and we were raised on it. Welcome to Beyond Surface Level, the channel where we question the systems we were raised to trust and expose the hidden structures that shape how we think, consume, and live. Because sometimes the biggest lies are the ones printed in our childhood textbooks and hung in our school cafeterias. So let's go back to where the pyramid was built and who built it. It all started in the 70s, during a time of political panic. Rising food prices were threatening voter approval, so President Nixon made a deal: push farmers to produce more grain, especially corn and wheat, and make food cheaper to calm the public. This turned into one of the most influential agricultural shifts in U.S. history. The government heavily subsidized crops like corn and wheat, not vegetables, not fruits, not high-quality protein, just cheap carbohydrates. Suddenly, America was flooded with a surplus of grains. But the question became, how do you turn an economic surplus into an everyday consumption? And here's where they enter the dietary guidelines. In 1977, the Senate released nutritional recommendations that would lay the groundwork for what later became the iconic but destructive 1992 food pyramid. But these guidelines weren't crafted by independent nutrition experts working solely on public health. They were heavily influenced by the USDA, an organization financially connected to agriculture, meaning the people responsible for promoting farm profits were now shaping what Americans believed was healthy. Several panels even included individuals with ties to the very companies that would profit from grain-based, mass-produced foods. So let's be clear, this wasn't simply about telling people how to eat. It was about creating a national consumer base for crops the government was already paying farms to overproduce. Nutrition became economics. Health became politics, and the foundation of what was considered a balanced diet was laid not on scientific certainty, but on political convenience. Because when the people selling the food are the same ones writing the rules, it's no longer guidance, it's influence. When the food pyramid was released in 1992, the base, the largest and most essential portion, was grains. 6 to 11 servings a day. Bread, pasta, cereal, crackers. Carbohydrates became the foundation of the American diet. Not because they were the healthiest option, but because they were the most profitable. Heavily subsidized crops like corn and wheat were dirt cheap to produce, perfect for turning into cereals, snacks, and processed foods, with massive profit margins. And so corporations like General Mills, Kellogg's, and Post had everything they needed: government-backed recommendations, addictive sugar formulas, and a nation primed to buy. And if you think this was just speculation, there's proof. In 1967, documents revealed that the Sugar Research Foundation paid Harvard scientists the equivalent of nearly $50,000 in today's money to shift blame away from sugar and onto fat. This sparked the low-fat craze of the 80s and 90s, where companies replaced fat with sugar, creating products that tasted better, triggered cravings, and kept people coming back for more. So when families were trying to eat healthy, with fat-free yogurts and sugar-filled cereals labeled as heart healthy, the food industry was cashing in. The pyramid didn't guide us towards health. It funneled us towards consumption. Once grains became the foundation of our diet, corporations didn't just rely on taste. They designed foods to override the body's natural stop signals. They refined grains so heavily that digestion became rapid, spiking blood sugar levels, causing an instant burst of energy, followed by a crash that triggered more hunger. They layered sugar, salt, and fast-burning carbs in a way that kept the body expecting another hit, similar to how slot machines are designed to keep players pulling the lever just one more time. But it wasn't only flavor, it was about speed. Processed foods were engineered to be chewed faster, swallowed quicker, and digested rapidly, so you could eat more of them before your brain registered fullness. And portions didn't get larger by accident. Packaging sizing, family-style marketing, combo meals, supersizing. These were strategic psychological triggers designed to make overeating feel normal. And perhaps one of the most manipulative tactics, the health halo, low-fat, whole grain, light, heart-healthy, natural, all words that made people believe they were making the right choice, even when the ingredients still fueled addiction and metabolic chaos. So people ate, not because they were greedy or lacked discipline, but because their bodies were responding exactly the way the system wanted to. But addiction alone wasn't enough. To make the system last generations, it had to become normal. And the easiest way to normalize something is to start in childhood. Think about the foods we were raised on. Fruit snacks labeled made with real fruit, 100% juice boxes that were basically liquid sugar. Fat-free granola bars secretly packaged with syrups, crackers stamped with whole grain, even though they dissolved like sugar in the mouth. School lunches served chocolate milk as a daily staple. Pizza was legally counted as a vegetable because of the tomato paste loophole. Instant mac and cheese, PB&J on soft white bread, pre-packaged lunch kits that made eating processed meat and cookies feel fun, social, and safe. At home, we were given cereal, waffles, frozen pancakes, toaster pastries for energy. At school, we were taught that grains were fuel and dairy was essential. Cartoons made junk food feel like friendship, commercials made sugar look like happiness, and nutrition posters made it look official. This wasn't just childhood, it was childhood conditioning. We weren't simply fed, we were trained to trust labels, to equate convenience with care, and to feel that if our bodies struggled under this diet, the problem was us, not the system feeding us. Once addiction was established and childhood loyalty was formed, there was still one last step needed to secure the system. Make people believe that any negative consequence was their fault. As obesity rates, diabetes cases, and chronic fatigue skyrocketed, the food industry didn't step back and say, maybe the system is broken. Instead, marketing shifted the burden onto the individual. The narrative became, if you're tired, unhealthy, or overweight, it's because you lack willpower. You're not disciplined enough. You didn't control your cravings. Suddenly, diet culture exploded, not to fix people, but to keep them trapped in an endless cycle of guilt and consumption. Billions were pumped into low-fat diets, calorie-counting apps, zero-sugar sodas packed with artificial sweeteners that still triggered the cravings. Weight loss programs flourished, detox teas promised quick fixes, people cycled between binging and restriction, always feeling like failures when they couldn't beat their bad habits. But how do you win a battle against cravings that were engineered, portion sizes that were manipulated, and hunger signals that were chemically altered? The truth is, we were fighting a war we weren't equipped to win, because we were never meant to win it. Today, the food pyramid has been replaced by a plate. The graphics are softer, the wording feels more modern, but the underlying structure, the same forces still shape it. Grains are still heavily promoted, processed foods have simply been rebranded with trendier labels like organic, plant-based, keto-friendly, gluten-free, whole grain, light, zero sugar, even when they're still ultra-processed and addictive. Companies now sell wellness as a lifestyle. Green juices marketed as health, even when they contain just as much sugar as soda. Protein bars that are essentially candy in disguise, and cereal boxes boasting immune support and gut health, with cartoon characters still smiling back at children. Meanwhile, influencers push what I eat in a day content that often revolves around brand partnerships. Superfood powders, metabolic boosters, and weight loss gummies feed the same system, just in a sleeker packaging. The rules haven't changed. The marketing got smarter, the guilt got quieter, and the illusion of choice got stronger. Because when every aisle is designed for profit and every label speaks the language of health, it becomes harder than ever to question what we've been taught to believe. So here's the truth they never wanted you to fully understand. Your struggles with food were not a personal failure. They were a predictable outcome of a system built on profit, not health. You weren't weak. You were targeted. You weren't disciplined. You were conditioned. Your cravings weren't signs of a broken self-control. They were the echoes of a design meant to keep you consuming. And the shame you've carried, the guilt from cheat meals, the disappointment from failed diets, the questions of what's wrong with me, none of that belonged to you. It belonged to an industry that needed you to blame yourself so you would never blame them. Real awareness begins the moment you stop fighting your body and start questioning the system that taught you to distrust it. The food pyramid wasn't just a chart, it was a story. A story written by politics, funded by corporations, and reinforced through childhood, and internalized as self-blame. But now you know. You can question why certain foods were glorified. You can challenge the belief that health is about restriction instead of understanding. You can see the labels, not as truth, but as strategy. And the next time you reach for something and wonder, why do I crave this? Just remember, it may not be your craving at all. It may be just by design. Awareness is the first rebellion. Questioning is the first act of freedom. And as always, if you enjoy topics like this that uncover the truth and question what we are told, hit like, subscribe, and share it with that one person that just gets it. Until next time, much love and see you next Sunday.